Hey everyone, we're TowawayCouple. I'm Tom, the driver.
And I'm Bunny, and I do the electric slide.
Do you know what that song is about?
Oh, shoot, that's... Yes, you told me. But that's...
Oh my god. Keep this G-rated. G-rated. Holy cow. I got my Bucky shirt on.
You do.
What's it say? Shamrockin' with my gnomies?
Shamrockin' with the gnomies.
The gnomes. The garden gnomes. So, anyway, we were going to wear these. Well, Bunny has an Easter one. We just don't think it would look good in videos.
No. But it's
I don't
cute.
even like that shirt in the video.
You liar.
No, look at the left side. No, in the video right here. There you go. That's better.
Stop it.
So, today's video topic is going to be about fifth wheel hitches.
Yes. And do you slide or do you not slide?
Or do you have to have one or not have one?
Right, because guess what? Depends on who you work for.
Right, because some companies require them and some don't give a crap.
Right, whether you have a hitch or not.
Right.
Right.
So with enough rights, we can't be wrong.
No,
never. We can be wrong. These are just our opinions. So we've been.
Well, you can be wrong.
Whoa. Wow. Brutal audience here. And she's not an audience.
No.
So we've been seeing a lot of questions about fifth wheel hitches lately, and we always we don't want to say something we don't know for facts, so we know how to scroll, but we also know how to ask questions. And when we ask a question and we get an answer, then we may revisit it and come back and give an answer.
Okay.
We don't like to post incorrect information or bad information. We don't want to post something that we're not familiar with.
Right.
Just to post.
Just to put it out there?
Just to put it out there. And so anyway, are fifth wheel hitches required to do RV transport we asked 3 questions, but that was one of them. Are RV transporters required to have a fifth wheel hitch?
Now, it depends on which company you run for. Some of them, you don't need one. All you need to do is just be able to do a bumper pull.
And that same company is depending on if you're CDL or non-CDL.
Right.
If you're CDL, they want you to for sure have a fifth wheel hitch because most of the heavier trailers are going to be on the fifth wheel unless you want to be hauling around wind block brick park models all your life.
Yeah, I think even most of those are CDL. But,
no, they are CDL, but they're bumper pull.
I know, and
they're just a big, giant, heavy wind block.
Yep. Now those the big toy hauler fifth wheels, they are heavy.
Yeah, the triple axles that you see are the just monster Momentums or Grand Design or well, Bunny knows all the manufacturers.
Well, heck, we have a Keystone Raptor, and that beast is heavy.
Exactly.
But commercially, we can't pull our own.
Not commercially. Not legally. I think, but we did scale our truck, our single rear wheel, and our fifth wheel, but our fifth wheel is fully loaded, food, everything, Harley, golf cart, you name it under the sun, and we scaled under 26,000 pounds. We scaled at 25,500 combined everything.
Right.
So that's not too bad,
no.
But I think we'd get a ticket and a violation if we were to be hauling it with our DOT numbers for hire.
Yeah, that would be out of the question.
All right, so the topic is fifth wheel, so we'll stay on topic a little bit. I know we like to ramble. I like to ramble.
Well, at least you admit it.
Thank you. So the company we work for does not require a fifth wheel hitch for non-CDL, but if you do have one, it gives you more options. Especially if you have a 2500, a 3500. Now this could be 250, 350. We use the hundreds because we have a Ram. And dually versus single rear wheel. So each one gives you more options. So when there's less trailers to pull.
Yeah, because I'll even throw this one out there, even the Ford 350 dualies are a lot lighter than the Rams.
Because they're all aluminum.
Right. So I mean,
Don't want to get into an accident in one of those
no,
suckers.
but they have more
Don't want to hit a deer.
We
We've seen what happens when someone hits a deer with a brand new
yeah. Unfortunately, a friend did.
F350 dually.
Yeah.
So, with that said, our company said it would give them more options. And I said, is a slider required if they do have a fifth wheel hitch? And they said, no, but highly, highly is the key word, recommended. So, you don't have to have a slider at our company. Now, at other companies, you have to have, if you have a short bed, they may require you to have a fifth wheel hitch or not, depending on the company. Mm-hmm. Our first company, they all put required on their website.
Right.
But there's probably 85% are bumper pulls versus the fifth wheels. Hell, they pump out more bumper pulls daily from the factory than they do fifth wheels. So if you start this business, don't focus on a fifth wheel hitch if it's about budgets.
Right, exactly. But if you are brand new to this and you've kind of fibbed your way through.
Yeah, if you have no experience pulling trailers and you lied, let's be honest.
Yep.
We talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have never pulled anything, including an aluminum boat trailer, and all of a sudden they're going to get into RV transport.
I would highly recommend if you have a short wheelbase truck and you've never pulled fifth wheels that you definitely want a slider hitch.
You definitely want a slider. Now, they do have manual sliders and automatic sliders. What slider should you get, might you ask? It's up to you. Mm-hmm. BMW makes a very nice BMW manual slider. We had a Reese. It wasn't as good of a quality as BMW. But for our trailer, it worked. And it was a manual slider. The problem with it for us was the one time, you almost never need to use the slider. Like 99% of the time, it's that 1% you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation where you have to lower the landing gears, unhook, and then reposition the truck to get under it and then move it. You just want to be able to slide your truck forward and then give yourself more of a degree of angle backing up to hopefully achieve a 90-degree angle.
Right.
Now, the reason, so we have a auto slide, a Demco auto slide in our short wheelbase. Why did we go the Demco auto slide and spend over $2,000? Because the one time I needed to slide that trailer back so I didn't have to unhook or do anything, it was pouring rain. Just cats and dogs, quarter-sized raindrops. And it was probably the most miserable experience I've ever had in my life. Did I do it? Yes. Did I ever want to do it again? No. And Bunny was always like, let's go cheap here. Let's go cheap there. And I'm like, you're not the one outside the truck doing this stuff.
But let me tell you, and it's funny because people are going to say, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to get myself in that situation because my company says I can't back up a trailer. Guess what? That's going to be thrown out the window in your first pull because you're going to pull in there and going to say, oh, you got to back this thing up or you got to do that.
And you're not going to go into super trucker mode with these dealerships and go, I'm not going to back it up. Bull crap, you're not, because they're not going to sign that DAF until you put the trailer where they want it. And in some scenarios, you can't go forward. You have to back up. So just be aware, whatever the company says, you're not allowed to back up. You're going to be backing stuff up. But you're still 1,000% responsible for that trailer.
Right, exactly. Now, it's funny because just backing in our own personal trailer yesterday, Tom was in such a position that if he would not have been able to make that turn in the short wheelbase, even with the auto slider.
Even with the auto slide, just because it was such a tight. On our side, we can't get a full 90. So we tested it in the parking lot when we got our fifth wheel. Maybe the newer fifth wheel is possible, but on our fifth wheel, I got it up to right to the cab and the cap of the fifth wheel. It was almost a full 90, but it would have hit to make the full 90.
Mm-hmm.
So we know our limitations.
And that's the biggest thing, too, is knowing your limitations.
Now, some people use the BMW Companion. That hitch is kind of cool. It's not even well, they got the manual slider, but then they got the BMW Companion that's not a slider. They can actually permanently move the head back to where you're in a good position to make most of all your turns, and you'll never have an issue.
No.
You may never have an issue. Sorry,
May never.
I don't want to say you'll never have an issue. But you may not. But you might have to lower the landing gears, unhook. But it's actually kind of an easy hitch to work, and it's not that big of a deal to lower your landing gears unless you're blocking the whole roadway, and everyone's honking their horns, and DOT might come up.
Yeah.
You don't want that. So on the auto slides, we have a Demco. There's also a pull right. Now the pull right, I think it goes back 2 more inches. So doing the math, I probably could have done a full 90 behind my cab of my truck. Mind you, I've had this thing for 7 years. I've never had to do a full 90 even with my manual. I just had to I didn't want to get to the breaking point. But now the Demco comes with these capture plates on the rails of the fifth wheel. They come with little short ones. They say, yeah, you got to get all these different capture plates. Well, the second upgrade we had to get was because of the Kingpin box, we had to get these taller rails. What we ended up doing was taking the stock ones out, putting the tall ones in. We've never switched them out. And then we had a Rhino. We had our first Rhino. We ran the risk. We connected it, brought our capture plates as far in, but the Rhino isn't like the normal pin box that's straight out. It's like really pointy. Yep. So when you turn, it has a lot before it connects and moves the fifth wheel hitch back, and it's not going to go back as far as a regular pin box. They do sell an adapter for the Rhino, and that you do bolt on to the front pin box of the fifth wheel. It's like 6 bolts. I have a ratchet and a socket ready to go with it. I put it on and just tighten it, and it's ready to connect to the truck. It takes all but 2 extra minutes. The pull right, you have to connect something to the front of the fifth wheel on every single fifth wheel, because it has a tab that goes into the slot of the fifth wheel hitch, and that's what these capture plates and that pin does is when the trailer turns, there's gears in the base of the fifth wheel for the auto slide, and it turns the head, which turns the gear, and it actually physically slides the hitch back in your bed, and then when you straighten up, it comes back straight forward over your axles where it should be.
Right.
Now we have heard of people getting a manual slider and just putting it in the rear position. Does that hurt? I don't know. I don't have any factual data or information. I would just assume that you would be safer with the fifth wheel pinned over the axle versus 4 or 6 inches behind the axle, pushing down on the bed of the truck.
So you want a little more weight or a little more stability over the
axle. So that's just my take on it. There's a lot of people that just think, oh, it's good here, good there, but they didn't think about it. And again, I wouldn't say do it, because that would be just bad advice to give.
Right.
So with the fifth wheel, it gives you more options.
It does give you.
Is it required to have? Check with the companies you're looking to lease on with. Find out what exact requirements they are, because if you go out and buy a Companion non-slidable hitch because you just don't want to have a slider and your company requires you to have a slider, they may reject you. And we've seen it happen at orientation, where they get all the way up to orientation and they get into the equipment inspection, and then We just heard there was 16 people in orientation and 3 got turned away because they didn't meet the requirements. Now, can they meet the requirements and go back and be reinspected? Yes. Do you want to have a $1,500 mistake?
When you get here?
When you get here, probably not, especially if you haven't bought your fifth wheel hitch.
Right.
So you don't want to buy, it's better to buy a slider and be guaranteed to pass the inspection.
And and it also too depends on if they really need drivers. If they need drivers, they're going to hire anybody for what they want. But if they have a stack full of applications and you don't have a fifth wheel hitch, then you might be passed over for somebody that does.
Yeah, and the problem is they don't really go back to those applications after so long. You got to almost reapply and reapply and reapply. So yeah, just do yourself a favor. If you apply at any company, when you talk to the recruiter, you don't already have a fifth wheel hitch, or you do, ask them specifically, do they require a fifth wheel hitch? If they don't, and money is an object, we would suggest not buying a fifth wheel hitch. Use your first investment into an auxiliary tank. Mm-hmm. And then buy your fifth wheel hitch for more options.
Yes.
But you want to make sure you buy the correct one that the company, at minimum, they'll require you to have a fifth wheel hitch, or not require you to have a fifth wheel hitch. At between, they'll have you just get a fifth wheel hitch. At worst case scenario, they're going to require you not only have a fifth wheel hitch, but it needs to be a slider if it's in a short bed. No one's going to require an automatic slider, but as long as it's a slidable hitch.
Right.
And if you have never pulled a fifth wheel hitch, or a fifth wheel, they're actually easier. They're more stable than bumper pulls. They're faster to hook up. They're intimidating when you've never pulled one, but you get better fuel mileage. It's much more stable going down the road. It's faster to hook on and unhook than with all the load bars and everything. So, but if you've never pulled one before and you've only pulled bumper pulls, just put a slider in to not put yourself in a bad situation.
Right.
A lot of people will say, you don't need a slider. Do those same people know your abilities? That's our question. And we're trying to gear you for success, not just saying, you don't need to buy a slider. We don't know your abilities. And we literally witnessed someone at Buc-ee's without a slider backing out of the fuel island, and he broke his window and the front cap on the fifth wheel. I didn't know he was a transporter. Bunny spotted him right away, but I was like, I offered to help him. He was not a very nice person, so I wasn't going to be nice back and help him.
Tom's like, I didn't know he's a transporter. I'm like, really? The big mud flaps on the back and the,
I wasn't
and the
looking.
and the stickers all over the side of the trailer.
I wasn't really paying attention. So, yeah, he broke his back window, and then he started cussing and screaming. And again, if someone's helping you or not, or if you're backing up and you're unsure, stop. Get out of your truck, walk the whole unit, make sure of your surroundings, how many feet you have, everything. Get in your truck, back up, and then stop. Get out and verify. Do this over and over. If you're unsure of your surroundings, stop. Get out and verify.
Even when we're on the radios, and I trust Tom wholeheartedly, but there's even times I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, well, just get out of the truck and check for yourself.
Yeah, because don't take my word for it. If you're uncomfortable, you're the best person that's going to make you feel warm and fuzzy.
Right, and I'll even tell him, but I need to pull forward because I feel more comfortable doing it this way. Well, then I do it my way.
Exactly. So, all right, that's our take on fifth wheel hitches. Again, take what you want out of this information or not, but a lot of people will have their own opinions, and that's perfectly fine. Just don't take bad advice. Just always go with the smoothest, easiest way that won't put you in bad situations. I just get tired of bad advice, especially not knowing another person's abilities.
Well, and you also got to think too. Okay, you damaged a trailer because because you really should have had a slider hitch and you didn't, and you damaged a trailer. So now the extra few $100s that you would have spent to buy that hitch is now going to cost you your $1,500 bond. Plus however much it is going to fix your own truck.
And possibly de-leased.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, just think farther ahead than the now.
Yeah, and don't be a super trucker. Super truckers do not last in this field very long. They might last years. But most of them will give whatever advice, and then you don't ever hear from them.
Right.
So we've been doing this for 2 years. We have a slider on one truck. We don't have a slider in the other truck. And yeah, we'd prefer not to have the slider because of the auto slide, because of we don't need the capture plates, but we have more options with the auto slide.
Yes, we do.
So, all right, with that information,
we'll see you down the road.
We'll see you down the road.